Hello, everybody. I'm Zeus Kerravala. Most of you know me as the founder and principal analyst of ZK Research, and I've done a number of these eSpeaks with Chris Preemsberger before. But today I'm actually filling in for Chris as the host of eSpeaks, and I'm delighted to be joined by a very well-known person in the world of communications. That's Simon Harrison, CMO of Avaya and Fortner Gartner analyst. So welcome, Simon.
Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate you having me along. Good, looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So tell me a little bit about Avaya. Many people don't, I think, know this about Avaya, but you're actually the largest communications pure play in the market, correct? I believe you're actually bigger than revenue-wise than Zoom and your partner RingCentral combined.
Yeah, we're pretty big. We're obviously available worldwide. 8,000 staff, serving about 90% of the Fortune 100 companies. About 180 countries that go to market in the world, and over 100 million users across our portfolio. We are. I think what's really quite important to recognise about Avaya is it's really defined by the experiences it creates. We connect people and things in ways that offer that more immersive, more productive, and there's more memorable experiences. That's the way I like to describe the value of this company. It's a pretty significant entity, but we are very much passionate about the experiences that we create for people.
Yeah, well, 100 million seats. That's actually, if I do my math correctly, from market size, and you're about 20%, about one out of every 5 seats then is actually an Avaya seat. So it's probably fair to say that every day we use Avaya technology, just sometimes we don't actually know that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, another great, because I think what's quite surprising is when you learn about some of the companies that we work with in particular. American Express, Apple, Barclays, Bank of America. We're sort of in the 19 of the world's top 20 major banks. Relying on Avaya solutions. Top 10 of the insurance companies in the world. More than nearly 5,000 educational institutions worldwide. We really do help in so many ways across these organizations. In so many organizations, you're absolutely right. More often than not, you may not realize that you're being connected, you're being empowered to do something or to be sort of supported based on Avaya technology.
Yeah, that's really who's who. So now, from what I understand, Avaya just completed a work from anywhere survey. And can you share some of the interesting findings and some ahas that maybe were interesting in that survey?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very interesting survey. I guess the overarching finding is that the COVID-19 challenge, continues to have a significant effect in our world. And according to the survey, 72% of leaders are rethinking their whole business model as a result. These are changes that will significantly impact things like the employees' locations, the way they work, their daily work. And 71% of tech decision makers reported faster adoption of new technology. So it's accelerated that digital transformation kind of challenge. I mean, the reality is that there's not an option anymore to not embrace the constructs of digital business. It's become mandatory. But what's quite interesting, I find also, is that it appears that when it comes to remote enabling stuff as part of this digital transformation, there's a lot of businesses that initially thought that's going to be enough, but actually when it comes to the business as usual but just remotely approach, it only works until the stresses cause something to break, because it's the business processes aren't built for that. And so we've learned an awful lot as part of this challenge. The survey really underpins a lot of learnings around how businesses have absolutely had to introduce new processes and practices as key, new ways to work, where things like working smarter actually means being able to be reactive, really well, reliant on complete changes in the way teams work together, basically.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I know one of the big changes because of digital transformation was cloud. And obviously, I think that it's fair to say the communication industry was late to cloud, but it's caught up in a real big way. Now, I think in the communication industry, we've rotated a lot of our cloud to the SaaS model. And I was watching the Dell Technology World keynote yesterday, and the FedEx CIO came on, and he was very emphatic about the fact that cloud doesn't just mean SaaS, right? There's edge computing, there's private clouds, and I know Avaya sees it. So why don't you walk us through that a little bit from an Avaya perspective, what the definition of cloud is and why that's important?
Uh, yes, yeah, really good point actually around the perspective of SaaS in terms of cloud. Clearly the early model where people were seeing value around that OpEx spend, not having to worry about the maintenance of a platform, just being able to use the application, make it effective for their business, was really sort of the emerging value of a cloud-based application ecosystem, that private cloud hosted model. And then the speed to value, and the ability to just kind of spin up a browser and see the value of a multi-tenant public cloud sort of swung the pendulum, and businesses started to think, well, in terms of our digital transformation ambitions, this perhaps suits what we need to achieve more so. But the reality is that it's swinging back towards the middle, where there's almost a cloud convergence ahead based on the adjacent technologies. As we know, adjacent technology areas always have an impact on another. And so if you look at RPA, hyperautomation, for example, it's changing what private cloud actually means. Instead of something that could take weeks, months to deploy, it can now be deployed in hours. And then if you look at some of the mega vendors and the way they're offering a SaaS-based cloud option as a single tenanted, very similar to a private cloud solution, the lines are becoming blurred, and it's right to, because it should be the cloud, the cloud consumption model should be all about what it is the business is trying to achieve, blending with what is typically a really complex existing environment of applications, multi-vendor, multi-cloud, multi-ecosystem type applications that are at different levels of progress in terms of becoming a cloud available solution. It needing to fit that, how you can consume cloud, how you power your business, how you achieve those goals to improve those customer experiences, improve those employee experiences, is really about the value you can drive through that cloud application ecosystem. And it doesn't mean it has to be SaaS based. It's typically better to address those ambitions with a more open perspective around the right kind of consumption to fit what you've got that's complex already, and to really bolster the future of your cloud application environment that fits your business, basically.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought up swinging the pendulum. It seems like in this industry, we swing them wildly to one side and back to the other, and then eventually we wind up in the middle. And it
Yeah.
seems that we're doing that now. And I know that Avaya just recently announced something called OneCloud, which was designed to actually help people bring the pendulum back to center. So can you talk to me about a little bit about Avaya, what Avaya OneCloud is?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, the reality is, when it comes to the people who are trying to consume at least contact center, unified communications, collaborations, technologies, perhaps some API economy-based technologies such as CPaaS, we see these things as part of a whole in terms of the solution that the customers need to really address their ambitions and solve their problems. And so Avaya OneCloud is about supporting two key futures, really. The future of the customer experience center, as you might see it, the factory floor contact center has evolved, of course, and Avaya empowers customer advocates to form part of a much broader organization to provide the best experiences and to enjoy great experiences themselves in terms of the staff in these centers. And then in terms of the future of the digital workplace, around the future of work, unified communications and collaboration technology that introduces new ways to work and be productive. And I'm quite excited about, there's lots of research surfacing now about the new work nucleus and how work stream collaboration is essential to that. So OneCloud is about offering up solutions that support those two key futures, that supports multi-cloud ecosystems. It enables you to realize the benefits of what you've already invested in very well. We want to make sure you get more out of that, but at the same time complement with with the great kind of public cloud ecosystem applications that you may already be playing with, and typically might well be you might be using some Amazon Web Services stuff, some Microsoft Azure stuff, some Google Cloud stuff. We want to bring that all into the solution discussion as part of what we provide. And so I guess in a way, OneCloud sort of becomes less of a sort of of what we provide and more of really who we are in terms of our approach. We're simplifying this, as I said, complex, very sort of myriad of applications and consumption styles within the enterprise to make it almost feel as though it's one cloud that's going to fit, and address all of these ambitions you have and solve typically an awful lot of problems that you might be having trying to move forward to the new, basically.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're trying to simplify, because that's certainly one thing that when I talk to large enterprises, it's gotten way too complicated. For my last question, I want you to put a bit of your futuristic hat on. A couple of weeks ago, NVIDIA held its GTC event, and Jensen Huang, their CEO, talked a lot about artificial intelligence being, this massive mega force moving forward. And I know you actually partner with NVIDIA, as well as Google and some other companies for AI. So tell us why AI is so important in communications, what it means to the contact center, what it means to collaboration.
Great question, and one that I kind of enjoy answering, really. I think it's fascinating when we look at the benefits of AI. Let's strip it back to, perhaps, if we consider machine learning not being new, right? It's something that's been around for a long time, but what really changed the game was the ability, compute power and the ability to consume and use more data to drive more intelligent models. And so suddenly we were on something, we could start doing some pretty clever things under this banner of AI. And we started to see early interpretations of some of the value in a customer experience center or as part of the digital workplace. You're starting to see more intelligent bot applications, starting to see more augmentation at the desktop. So let's listen into a conversation and dynamically suggest knowledge articles that are most relevant to the conversation that's going on right now. Saving time around some of those activities to free up more availability for the more important engagement, seeing some of that real kind of business value based on some of these use cases. And then the digital workplace, perhaps starting to live transcript meetings and starting to see that things like background removal and some of the things we're doing with NVIDIA, as you touched on, things like even making you look better as part of your visual appearance, and doing that on a server side as well, which is quite important because it actually enables you to realize some of these benefits out and about with your mobile. If you suddenly find yourself needing to be in an important meeting and you're in the middle of a run or on a cycle ride, you can, for all intents and purposes, look like you're in a professional environment, and you can take that meeting where you are. But moving beyond those kind of things, I wouldn't say that they are necessarily as progressive anymore. There's a lot of Me Too going on out there. The real power of AI, in my mind, is how AI is empowering applications to learn us as part of an ecosystem. One of the things that I think is fascinating, even if I take a crude example of my VPA, driving along in my car, I can happily say, play the top 10 songs in the world, and I trust it to go and find them, and it'll start playing them. I could then say something like, what's the best movie soundtracks in the world? And it'll read off from a website, the top 10, and it'll read the first 5 and then say, do you want to hear about the next 5? And I go, no, just play the first one. It'll play that. I'll say to it, as I'm driving along, where's the best place to get a coffee from here? And it will use the map and reviews to decide which are the best options. And it'll suggest, do I want to be routed to that coffee shop, or do I want to call them? That happens today. And what's powerful about that is I don't need to know which applications to use to answer any of my questions. I trust the answers that are being presented based on this application ecosystem of different apps where the personal assistant is deciding what's best for me. I trust this whole thing, and now move that into the enterprise where you've got the ability to speak to a supervisor application, just say, how am I doing today against my SLAs? What could I be doing in terms of improving my engagement with my customers today? And the application knowing how to get the best out of the solution. That to me is where it gets really exciting. And then moving on further still, we start talking about evolutionary algorithms and all kinds of cool stuff that's coming up in the future. It's an exciting space that I think we've not even scraped the surface of in terms of what we've seen so far. And Avaya is really invested in where this is going and how it can help our customers in some wonderful ways as part of our OneCloud your application ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks. I can tell you're passionate about it, so am I. In fact, if readers want to understand more about AI and communications, I've written a lot about it on eWEEK. So that does take us in over time, though, and it was a pleasure having you here, Simon. I want to thank you for joining us, and on behalf of Chris Primesberger, I want to thank everyone for watching us. As he would say, have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.